Hey, Princess, quick.
As I was writing the intro to this video, Nifsky Super Mario Bros. 1 God just coincidentally happened to set a new world record the other day in Super Mario Bros. 1. The thing about his new record is he's closing on something called the TAS tie. TAS means Tool Assisted Speedrun, so for those unfamiliar, you're basically putting in every input frame by frame for total optimization and total perfection, which also means at some point he'll be tied with the fastest humanly known possible way to currently speedrun the game, the TAS. Currently, as of this recording, he's 4 frames away from tying the TAS. Imagine getting a PB in a speedrun and then that's it, your world is over. The princess is not in another castle. There's legitimately no more time to save. There will never be that next run. It's absolutely wild to think about, and how far the Super Mario Bros. Community has come, my hat goes off to you all. It's truly a cool achievement in speedrunning history, as it's never happened in speedrunning before. And it also makes this intro kind of awkward now, because this video is about getting a sub 5 time in Super Mario Bros. In 48 hours, which in direct comparison to Nifsky puts me in 398th place? Okay, so maybe we're not some Super Mario Bros. 1 God like Nifsky, or even the proper authority to talk in the manner, but I am the 398th best person in the world in Super Mario Bros. 1, okay? And top 400 in the world means something, I think. Alright? At least that's what I tell myself when I go to bed crying each night. And in all honesty, I feel like getting sub 5 in this game was a really cool accomplishment and should be on every speedrunner's bucket list. Super Mario Bros. 1 was actually pretty deceptive to hit a sub 5 in, as there's a lot of invisible time loss. This video is about what goes into each level, especially in particular if you're not going for any of the crazy stuff like flagpole and bullet bill glitches. So, let's talk about each level, what each level took, as it was a genuinely fun experience to try to get sub 5 in Super Mario Bros. 1. So, imagine a bus. Okay, I'm sure everybody is pretty familiar with Darvian's explanation by now. So we'll break it down even more simple and say this game runs on frame rolls. For every 1 frame roll lost, you lose about 0.35 seconds. And based on Cosmic's tutorial that skips over the hard stuff like bullet bill and flagpole glitches, you can only lose about 4 or 5 frame rolls. I think when you're running this for the first time, 1-1 immediately introduces you to the invisible time loss in this game. A stage or a section can feel right, but you lose just enough time to lose the frame roll. Take for example the first pipe that you go down. You need to jump and leave at 380 on the in-game timer, and leaving at 379 looks almost identical to 380. You can still even leave at 379 on the in-game timer without losing a frame roll, so it's a little confusing to understand when you start running this game. If a coin flashing is black on the screen transition, you didn't actually lose the frame roll. Overall, I was able to perfect 1-1 and leave usually at 380 or with the 379 where I didn't actually lose the frame roll. Getting 380 and not losing the frame roll wasn't too bad, so it was pretty quick to learn 1-1, as the main big thing when you're new to sub 5 is definitely the pipe area, falling properly, jumping up on the ledge and then leaving properly. 1-2 is weird, as you can intentionally lose some time, as there's a lot of lenience in this level to hit the fastest frame roll. But I want you to take a close look at this Koopa's face. You see this guy? This dude is a bitch-ass Koopa who killed a lot of my runs with his bitch-ass face after the first big jump you make with Mario. He's incredibly easy to run into or die on. I ended up swapping the grip on the controller to piano grip to increase the consistency of quickly jumping over the Koopa. So if you're new to sub 5 and dying here, consider piano grip, as using the standard grip actually killed me a lot until I swapped. There's also a pretty tight pipe jump that you're forced to do here, and because of how frame rolls work in this level, you can release the D-pad to make the pipe jump easier. This pipe jump also became a lot easier once I swapped to piano grip. Outside of the Koopa killing a lot of runs here, if you release the D-pad on the controller to make the pipe jump easier, this level didn't really have anything else too bad in it. Mario jumps up past the level, morphs to 4-1, you have quite a big window to also drop off the ledge to jump, so leaving 1-2 without losing any frame rolls was also pretty consistent. There was a Super Mario Bros. 1 cheating scandal a long time ago, Pizza and Coke Gaming baby, that I knew was fake when it came out, but I didn't quite understand some of the references in Cosmic's old parody video about it because I hadn't learned Super Mario Bros. 1 yet. In Cosmic's parody, the first couple of levels his heart rate doesn't change much, but at some point it skyrockets to 3022 in 4-1. In retrospect, this is pretty hilarious, and I completely understand why Cosmic did this now. And I can promise you, you can speedrun this level. This level is absolutely free in every sense of the word. There's nothing at all that's difficult about 4-1. I'm not even sure that I sat here once during my sub 5 grind. All the jumps are super intuitive, and all you really need to do is time the stairs towards the end of the level. It's an insanely easy level to be consistent on and run through without losing any frame rolls. Alright, entering 4-2, it's no longer easy or consistent. Talking about frame rules, this was both the first level I often lost a frame rule, and I just conceded on losing a frame rule during most attempts. The really good Super Mario Bros. Runners can enter the wrong warp pipe at 376 left on the clock. I originally learned some strats to get 375, but I would say 80% of the time I entered this pipe at 374, so that was the frame rule that I lost. Mario has to bump a few times during these backwards jumps to scroll the screen in a particular way to set up a wrong warp. Additionally, you have to spawn the vine to make sure the Piranha Plant doesn't spawn in the pipe Mario wrong warps into. This level took a pretty decent amount of time to learn, even to get a 375 or 374. I changed the strats here multiple times, and speaking of Cosmic helped out multiple times with personalized tutorials and messages, and I still had a really hard time consistently hitting 375. In the run that actually got sub 5, I declared I was part of the 374 gaming gang. I just couldn't get 375, and my sub 5 has a 374. I think I'm kind of conflicted here. Definitely 4-2 is the first level that requires practice, and 374 is very consistent if you're trying to hit 374 anyway. 375 requires a lot more, and 376 is just on a totally different level. All the little jumps are pretty precise to scroll the screen scroll, and jumping is also pretty precise to set up the wrong warp. Another harder thing in this level is going down the pipe as Mario. You have to go down the pipe in a pretty specific way. Mario is kind of slippery when stopping his acceleration, and he can't scroll the screen too far right after bumping to set up the wrong warp, otherwise he'll wind up in the underground bonus area instead. The wrong warp sends Mario to World 8, where the speedrun really begins. As I said, I generally lost one frame rule in 4-2 whenever I entered the wrong warp pipe at 374. Still, sometimes I would save the frame rule and enter at 375. It definitely wasn't as common though during my attempts. 8-1 is difficult. There's two 2-frame pipe jumps, and the pipe jumps are really tough as they're by feel and they don't really have good setups for them. Pretty much like 90% of all my runs died in the first 2 pipe jumps on this level, like no exaggeration. In terms of frame rules, you have absolutely no variance in this level, so you really need to do everything without letting go of the D-pad at all. Otherwise, you lose a frame rule or multiple frame rules. There's a one-tile jump that you have to jump basically in the center off the tile, which is a little tricky at first, but it becomes very consistent later on. The small pipe after the third pipe jump is actually a really annoying jump to jump over when you're new. If you hit the pipe and brush up against it at all, which is pretty common after jumping the triple Koopas, you'll likely lose multiple frame rules. This Koopa must have been related to the bitch-ass Koopa from before because it's really easy to accidentally jump on that Koopa and accidentally brush up against the pipe. So 8-1, probably in my opinion, is one of the hardest levels in the speedrun to learn properly. Finishing perfect at the end of 8-1, you'll see 200 on the in-game timer. You also need to spawn a star running through the level to hit the proper frame rule. Overall, this was a tough level, and up until this point, most of my practice went to 8-1 by far. Still, I think this was an interesting level, as once I got good, I was consistent enough not to lose a frame rule. In the end, I didn't lose a frame rule in 8-1. 8-2 looks pretty scary, but the beginning is actually really easy. You just have to believe jumping, and you'll jump through all the stupid chaos at the very beginning of the level without any problem. It definitely looks a lot worse than it is, but lining up the jump on the stairs isn't too bad. It's very similar to the rest of the stair jumps in the other levels. If you stay at the top of the level, this level also isn't too bad either. There's a lot of logical places to jump from, and progressing through the level is pretty easy. But towards the end, you guessed it, there's another pipe jump, and the pipe jump is really annoying. I went through a few different strats and settled on barely jumping on the left side and immediately jumping off, which importantly got rid of the Koopas being in weird spots for me. Generally doing this, I could jump over all 3 Koopas and I didn't have to worry about their positions being random, which if I did other pipe jump strats, sometimes they'd be in my face and I would bounce off them and die. Overall, 8-2 wasn't as bad as 8-1, and I was able to get through more often than not. I didn't lose a frame rule in 8-2. If you're crazy good at not losing any frame rules, and based on when you start the game, you'll get the exact same Hammer Bros pattern. Otherwise, if you don't know your pace, the Hammer Bros are effectively random. And really, the only Hammer Bros you have to worry about if you don't know what pattern you're gonna get are the first 2 pairs. When I got here on sub 5 pace, I was forced to read the Hammer Brothers jumping each time because I didn't know what their patterns were gonna be. So if I saw the top or the middle was free, I would try to jump there accordingly. Usually the bottom was safe on the first set, but I had to read the Hammer Brothers on the second set. The barrage of Hammer Brothers at the end are easier than you think to deal with. If they jump when you jump, let go of jump. And as Mario falls, he'll just kill the Hammer Brothers while they're in the air. As Mario falls, his hitbox takes priority over the Hammer Brothers hitbox. So unless you're immediately sniped by a hammer, this makes this section really easy to get through. You have to bump on the block at the final end of the level, which is intentional, otherwise you'll finish the level and set off some fireworks. I actually found 8-3 a lot easier most of the time to get through than 8-1 and 8-2, as most of the time on this level, I also did not lose a frame rule. Oh boy, 8-4 is a pain in the ass. Every frame that you lose in 8-4 actually means you'll lose time, because the game ends when Mario touches the axe, which is not on a frame rule. That means everything needs to be as perfect as possible, and there's a lot of ways in 8-4 you can mess up 8-4. Right off the bat, you have to run off the stairs and jump, and I've actually died a few times falling into the lava like a chump. The jump here honestly isn't that hard, but you can still die. The jump across the lava afterwards is a 3-frame jump. And if you try to jump off the platform, you'll probably lose some time, as when Mario drops down there, you get pushed back on the platform. After you enter the pipe, there's a wall jump, and depending how you set up the wall jump, you'll have 1 or 2 frames to do it. I chose the 2-frame setup, but I probably lost a few frames by jumping too high, I think with Mario entering the pipe. And then from there you have to scroll the screen over, which I also lost a few frames as well to set up the wrong warp. All of this is pretty tight, and most of the time I didn't lose too many frames here, but after you wall jump up and go down the pipe, you'll enter a water section. I lost all kinds of time in the water section, probably more than 1 frame roll here. Swimming perfectly is very difficult, so no matter what I did, I would generally lose 1 or 2 frame rolls in the water section. I would go so far to say the water section, at least for me, was the hardest screen probably in the entire game to be consistent in. There's all kinds of setups, you can bonk your head and swim, and no matter what I tried, I would always lose time here. So I really needed to make sure that the rest of this run lost as little time as possible. I was pretty sure I didn't lose too many frame rolls up until entering the water outside of the wrong warp in 4-2. Last, once you get out of the water section, there's a Podoboo that can kill you on bad frame rolls just by being under right where Mario jumps. Other than that, you just have to leap of faith over Bowser or run under him, which you can still lose frames on, and I'm pretty sure I did lose frames on by jumping a little bit too high over Bowser for sub 5 in Mario 1. All in all, I greatly enjoyed everything about the challenge of sub 5 in Super Mario Bros. 1. I originally tried on my channel to get it within 25 hours, but after the 25-hour mark, I ended up with a 504. So that should kind of show you how long it took from start to finish in 25 hours of learning and practicing runs. I decided to keep streaming attempts, and after 48 hours, I finally got sub 5. The hardest part was tracking down all the invisible time loss and really paying attention to the in-game timers, because realistically, you could beat several levels and it looks like you did so correctly, but you would lose frame rules, and at some point, if you lost too many, even if the run looked perfect, sub 5 would be impossible. I thoroughly enjoyed putting a timer to this challenge, and I enjoyed the pursuit and perfection required to get the sub 5 after the timer ended. I really think all speedrunners should try this, even if you end up being 400th in the world. I have thought about coming back to it and learning the harder strats like the flagpole glitch and bullet bill glitch, but at the end of the day, I think I'll leave that to Nifsky and all the other insane people at this game. At least for now. Thanks for watching.